working in NRM sector, including resource conservation and livelihood, for 29 years in Maharashtra and worked in Himachal Pradesh, MP, and few other states. Worked for 14 years in NGO sector. Later joined Yashoda, that is SIRD Maharashtra, as research officer. Worked as DPME IFAD supported project and further
Sira.
appointed as senior advisor to Principal Secretary Water Conservation, Government of Maharashtra. He is having an experience in project management ranging from planning to monitoring and evaluation, largest being Integrated Watershed Management Program, that which is now called as PMKSY Watershed. Watershed, water sector field and policy initiatives for water security, groundwater recharge, water literacy, water quality, water budgeting, cleanliness campaign, well recharging, etc. is in its area of specialization. Evolved monitoring, evaluation, and learning documentation is MELD for IIWMP projects. He is a team member for studies on climate change and agriculture of water in Maharashtra. He has developed proposals on climate adaptations, watershed plus drought resilience in Marathwada, as well as protecting upper catchments of Bhima River Basin. Along with NRM, his work for community empowerment, decentralized planning, integration of social sectors and rural livelihoods in Government of India, NABARD, UNICEF, World Bank, ICF, Aga Khan Foundation, and DIFD supported projects. Represented in state and national level committees for institutionalizing and strengthening watershed projects since 1994. Contributed for policy studies of watershed and rural livelihood. He has conducted appraisals, budget planning, reviewing, monitoring, and evaluation of DPAP, IWDP, Hariali, NHWDP, IWMP, and such other projects. He has worked on and developed many innovative concepts in NRM, community monitoring, groundwater management, artificial aquifer recharge, etc. And he has published many more articles on the same subject. He has facilitated convergence at various levels within government departments and agencies, of scheme at project level, and of approaches at district level. He has been delivering lectures, talk sessions in classrooms as well as online training workshops. And in the same series, he is going to speak with us today on water ecosystem challenges and water stressed districts in India. Jayant sir, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh ji. Thank you very much. This being an online mode, I am not able to see all of you, but this will have been a great opportunity. If some other occasion we can meet and discuss on these topics in more details. So I start with the presentation. Yeah, please, someone can confirm whether it's visible. Fine, fine. Okay, okay. And I hope I won't be having a problem in navigating. If at all there's some problem, I'll request Rajesh ji to help me over because I have also shared this presentation. So we will be discussing about this water ecosystem challenges in India. It is like a brief journey going through some global scenarios and some even district level scenarios where it helps us to understand something about water. As we all know, water is a very vast subject and surely it cannot be dealt in one lecture. But we'll try to touch on the more important points which are of our interest. I would like to also clarify that here, when we say water, it is water related to the usable water for human mankind. And the ecosystem does not truly mean the whole ecosystem like in environmental science. It is an ecosystem components related to the usable water, and only few which are in the preview of the present topic. Okay. So I like to call this presentation or this discussion as something like watery bumps or bumpy whatever you would like, because you would feel so while going through this presentation. This presentation will have five parts, sections: introduction to water, overview of global water resource, then water resources India and some importance in Maharashtra, water resource consensus related to water resources, and the way forward. So this is a brief journey, and since we have lost a few minutes in this connectivity issue, I will have to run a little faster. So please bear with me. And in case you have any questions, queries, please note down. We can discuss after the session. So to start with this, I'd like to have a small quiz. There are a few questions. These are school level questions, but this is just only to brief you back to the basic concepts of water. So the total water on Earth, how much is in oceans? Is there water on other planets? Water boils more quickly on mountain peak than at sea level. True or false? Water contracts when it freezes. What part of iceberg is seen floating in ocean? 1/4, 1/8, 1/12? At what temperature will water evaporate? And do you agree that water cycle is driven by evapotranspiration? Just to go through the answers, 97% of the Earth's total water is in oceans. And yes, there is water on other planets. Water boils more quickly on mountain peak. True. Water contracts when it freezes. False. 1/8 of the iceberg is seen floating in the ocean, and 7/8 part is below the surface. Above 4 degree temperature, water will evaporate, and this last one is a personal response kind of thing. So fine. We start with the main presentation part. There are some unique characteristics of water, which makes water very peculiar. These are the characteristics like polar nature, then cohesion, where water sticks itself, causing surface tension. Adhesion, water sticks to other surfaces. Capillary action, water rises against gravity, like from roots to leaves. There's anomalous density of water, where because of which we see that ice floats on water. And water is a universal solvent because of the ions and hydrophilic solutes easily dissolved in water because of its polar solvent nature. So these are the unique characteristics which make water very specific, and helps the life on Earth. We'll have a global overview of the water resources. We all know this water cycle. Maybe you would be feeling that these are very basic things being presented, but as I came to know that there are some learned scholars, eminent personalities, as well as there are some enthusiasts and some even students. So this is something which will touch upon all those aspects related to water. So this is a water cycle which we have studied even at the school level, and we know that from water evaporates from the ocean, it condenses to form clouds, and then it precipitates in the form of rainfall, in the form of snowfall. It accumulates in the mountain peaks. It flows through the rivers. It accumulates into the lakes. It then forms soil moisture, flows back to the ocean, and keeps on cycling. So as we saw in that quiz, 97% of the total Earth's water is in oceans, which means that there is only 3% of water is termed as fresh water. Out of this 3%, 70% is in ice caps and glaciers, 29% is in groundwater form, and only 1% water is easily accessible fresh water. This 1% is of the total 3%. And of these 1%, then again 52% is in lakes, 38% is soil moisture, 8% is water vapor, and 1% in the rivers and all the living beings. So this gives us the understanding of how scarce the usable water content is, considering the whole water system. We know because of the water on the earth, it's called a blue planet, or it's seen as blue from the space. But this blue nature, out of this blue component of the planet, it's hardly a small fraction which is utilizable and can be used for the mankind or the living beings. So that's how the importance of water can be described. Now that was in abstract terms. Now let's see how it is in absolute terms. So total water in million cubic meter. Those who can have that calculations, please, they may work it out to go into liters. But then million cubic meters is a vast volume, and difficult even to imagine in the form of liters. So you can have simple mathematics where we can work out even with liters. But just to understand the volume, please try to understand and keep the unit as million cubic kilometers. So total volume of water on the earth is 1,386, of which salt water is 1,344, fresh water is 35 million cubic meter, and water vapor is 7 million cubic meter. And of this 35, then as I told you, 25 million million cubic meter is ice caps, groundwater is 8, and surface water is 2 million cubic meter. And the surface water distribution again is 0.82 in lake. Soil moisture is 0.43, plants animals is 0.40 million cubic meter, and rivers and streams is 0.05. So only 0.2% is usable water, and we are discussing about this usable water in the perspective of this session. So
Sir,
the water,
sir, one question. Lakes also include the dams, sir?
that's part of rivers and air streams.
Okay.
So dams are constructed on rivers. So the water flowing through rivers is accumulated into the dams. It can be various kinds of water storage structures. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So now coming to our country. So the total average annual rainfall is 1,170 mm. This is something, a long period average, which the IMD terms it. And when this total precipitation, when this rainfall is converted into a volume of precipitation, it comes to something 4,000 billion cubic meter. So 1 billion cubic meter is 1 cubic kilometer. And the total availability out of it is 1,869 billion cubic meter. You can always convert it into percentages also to have a better understanding of it. Like 1,869 is something 48% of the 4,000 billion cubic meters. And of this, the utilizable part is 1,083. Let's say 1,000 billion cubic meter, 25% of the 4,000 billion cubic meter of the total volume of precipitation. Now, even within this 1,000 billion cubic meters in our country, which is utilizable water, usable water, surface water is 690 billion cubic meters, groundwater is 393. So even then, again, the percentage, when we draw down or go into more granularities, we make it more precise to understand of what kind of nature, what kind of source, what kind of resource the water we are using. The demand against the availability, then we also have to think about the demand. So irrigation demand is 543 billion cubic meters. As we say that India is an agrarian country, 85% of the water requirement is for irrigation and agriculture. Friends, it's also true to some extent even at the global level. The freshwater consumption for agriculture in the world is roughly around 65%. So it's just not India where it is more like dependent on the use for fresh water. It's also the global scenario with some variation, but 65% is also very high. Domestic water requirement is 42 billion cubic meters, is 37 power and all this. So these are the different distributions which we have. And this, yeah, I'd like to also emphasize over here that this is only desk research which I have trying to I'm trying to put forth to you. This is nothing like primary research done by me. So I owe acknowledgement to all those researchers and all those publishers who have made this possible to bring it and turn it out to you. Then this is one more information as we saw in the earlier slide, that the total availability is 1,009 billion cubic meters, of which utilizable is something around 1,000 cubic meters. So this is the distribution of that utilizable surface water, which is in different river basins. So Ganga has the largest contribution, 36% of this total utilizable water. Then second is Brahmaputra, but see, you can see a bit a, a very important concern over here, that Ganga has a total 525 billion cubic meter, sorry, million cubic meter of water resource. Brahmaputra and Barak has 585, but out of 585 in Brahmaputra, only 24 million cubic meter is utilizable for India. So so we have to also think that it is always not the whole water resource which is available to us which can be utilized. Then therefore what happens, like, then though Brahmaputra is a very large river having lot of water in volumetric terms in its basin, Godavari stands a second with 11% contribution. And then third is Mahanadi, and followed by Krishna, followed by Mahanadi and other rivers. So this is the distribution. Now it is also important that when we say that 1,000 billion cubic meter is utilizable water available in India, the spatial distribution of this water is not uniform. So obviously the utilizable potential in different regions or different river basins is different, and obviously the conservation practices or utilization patterns have to be in line with with the availability. Then as we saw in this earlier slide, that this surface water is 690 billion cubic meters and groundwater is 393 billion cubic meters. So something around 40% comes from the groundwater, which is of which 91% is usable recharge resource, and if we see the recharge pattern, we will see that the monsoon rainfall, which is in global terms termed as summer rainfall, comes recharges nearly 58% of the groundwater out of this 91%. The non-monsoon and other sources also help, even to there, as you said, that dams and rivers and lakes, no, these surface water bodies also help to recharge groundwater, and that percent something goes up to something 18%. So those conservation structures also help to recharge and retain the groundwater levels. Now this is going still deeper, taking a case of one state, as we saw Godavari, which is an interstate basin. So the Godavari, the part of Godavari which is in Maharashtra, contributes to something nearly 50% of the total geographical area of Maharashtra. And then Krishna, the second largest, to something 20%, Tapi 15%, west flowing river, that is Konkan side rivers from Palghar, Thane, Mumbai, Raigad, Ratnagiri, Sindhudurga, all these contribute to something 10% or 11% of the area. Narmada has very small part of it. But if you look into the total annual average availability is 163 or 165 billion cubic meter, we can say. But since Godavari and Krishna are interstate rivers, there's a tribunal distribution of the water. So the net utilizable water in Godavari and Krishna is far less than the total availability within the basin, and therefore the availability for Maharashtra comes to something around 125 billion cubic meters. Now, this distribution, if we see, this is again just to understand the spatial change within the states or the regions. So, what we saw at the country level is 91% is usable resource of the groundwater, whereas in Maharashtra it is 95%, a little higher than that. And the recharge distribution shows that monsoon rainfall contributes to 66%. This is something 8-10% more, comparatively more than at the national as the national scenario. But there we have seen that nearly 18% is other recharge, and in the case of Maharashtra, it comes to only 5%. So this is the offset because of the geohydrology of the area. This is just not spatial variation, but there is also some peculiar scientific reasons, as most of the parts of Maharashtra fall into hard rock areas, peculiarly known as basalt or Deccan Trap. So it is just not the surface or just the rainfall or the climate or the weather. It is also something beyond that, and this is something which is unmanageable, static kind of thing, which would change over thousands of years. That's weathering sure. The geology means the basalt can weather to exposure through hydraulic pressures or some many are different reasons, but that would take years and years. And that's why there's a very peculiar nature in hard rock areas and other areas like the Ganga basin, where the geology is called as alluvium. That means deposited silt. So it might have been earlier like a saucer or something like that, and then or the rivers flowing through that area brought all the silt and debris while carrying the water, and that was all deposited into this basin. Even as you might have many times heard that Ganga changes its course. It's not the very same course or the fixed banks of Ganga which flow years after years. It changes its course every maybe not specifically like 10 years or something decadal change, but it changes with the floods, with the droughts, and all those things. So that's some peculiar feature of that area. And similarly, we have this hard rock areas even in different parts. Like that's hard rock area in Karnataka would be called as granite, and then that's something like marble hard rock in Rajasthan, parts of Rajasthan, not all Rajasthan, parts of Rajasthan. Then we have sandstones in the other part of Rajasthan. So it's still different. Each and every geohydrology has its own peculiar features, and that's also a very different science to understand. Okay, so we move to the next slide. We know that there are different uses of water, and that's why it is very important. It's just not life support; it's also socio-economics of the area, which are governed a lot by water. So water has upstream uses where water is pumped up or drawn out or diverted or something like that for agriculture, thermal, electric, industrial, mining, drinking, domestic, and commercial purposes. There are in-stream uses like hydropower, navigation, recreation, or ecosystem support system. And these also depend on the local geography as well as the socio-economic patterns in that area. And that's why water then becomes a very important issue, just not to support the life, but uh, also to support the socio-economics of the area. We know water is life, but it's a concern for life. Then I have tagged it with 2 question marks and 3 exclamations. So is it really a concern? That also we have to think. And why it seems to be a concern, that also we have to think. So let's move into that those aspects where we will have to think about some determinants, whether it's a concern, and if it's a concern, to what extent and how. So this is the global precipitation distribution. Again, a global view or Hawkeye view of the total scenario, because nothing goes beyond these boundaries, and all and there are many things which are not shareable regarding fresh waters. Maybe ocean waters, yeah, there might be some sharing because seas are interlinked and all those things. But fresh waters are divided by the boundaries, and therefore it is very peculiar, very sensitive also to think about it. Now, if you see over here, this is Australia. Are you able to see it?
We are able to see.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So this is Australia. This is light brown, dark brown kind of thing. Light brown says the rainfall is say like 250 to 500 millimeters. Then dark brown says it is 200 less than 250 millimeters. So similarly, here are areas in the northern African region, then the Middle East, falling over into China, and then Russia. Similarly, here in Greenland and Canada. So the and then the tip of South Africa. So this is a this is an understanding of the global precipitation in the form of rainwater as well as snow. Okay. Now this is now yeah, please.
Oh, snow, no, rainwater precipitation and the snow precipitation in northern area, Northern America, and all is so scanty, sir. Even with snowfall, some of the countries.
As I told you, this is all drawn from some
Okay, research papers.
this is drawn from some publications or some articles, some studies,
Sir.
and and they have done
Okay.
all those data collation and data analysis and all this is presented over here. What I'm trying to right now specify is, as we see that these are the areas, and since these are in dark tones, obvious, and they represent something less rainfall, comparatively less rainfall. It does not surely mean that it is less for the people or for the ecology of that area, but it is less in comparative terms, because there are some areas where where we have rainfall more than 2000 millimeters. This is northern part of South America, then some this river regions, then Indonesia and all those parts. Even the Western Ghats of India also receive rainfall more than 2000 millimeters. Now, fine, it's all over there. Means there's a lot of availability as shown in the dark blue tone, and there's less rainfall or less precipitation in the dark brown tone. Now, how does this translate into availability? So if you look into this picture, this is a picture where the global water availability per capita, per person is shown. So obviously population is the rider over there. But now if you see, all these areas which were having light or dark brown tone in terms of availability are converted to dark blue tone. And this dark blue is to a very high extent, something more than 50,000 cubic meter per person per year. Okay, yeah, and then this availability has been categorically based on some studies done by UN and WHO, where they have pointed out that the water requirement of a person for all purposes, direct, indirect, means whatever we eat, the food grains require water for production. So they have calculated the per capita consumption of starch, pulses, all those things, milk, meat, whatever it is. Then the electricity we use, or the different kind of power used, and its dependence on hydroelectricity and water requirement, recreation, and all those things, consumption, domestic use, everything. And they have derived to a figure called as 1700 cubic meters of requirement per capita per year. So they have defined something like 1700 cubic meters of availability of water per person is something what can be said as water sufficiency. So 1700 cubic, the areas having 1700 cubic meters can be said that they are okay, fine. Even if the precipitation in that area is less, still the availability in terms of per capita is okay, fine, good. So if you see this, so what happens, like the scenario changes from the precipitation level analysis to the availability level analysis, and we see areas which were dark, like maybe even here. So western part of South America continent. So this becomes blue, even dark blue.
Surpluses.
Yeah, yeah. So this is how it changes. And India,
पोहा व्हायला बोलून घ्या
pardon.
पोहा व्हायला एकदा बोलून घ्या तुम्ही म्हणजे हो ये आणि तर वहाँ पे ऐका ना त्यांना 10 वाजता आहे ना
But sir, if this is the-
Yes, some of the interference.
Yeah, something. Yeah, might be fine. Okay. So so here we see that the tone for these countries like China, India, Pakistan have changed because mostly because of the population. So when we divide by this determinant, we obviously will be having lesser figures. Right. So this is one perspective which actually I thought should be put forth. Apart from availability, then we see even for demands. So there are different demands, as I told you: irrigation, domestic, livestock, manufacturing, electricity, on all those things. So for the different set of countries, we'll just think about the world over. So this demand for irrigation in 2000 is considered at this level, maybe more than 2000, 2500 kind of thing. Whereas because of the limited availability, because availability won't change much, but the demand will increase, and then this demand will have to be rationalized against the population. Therefore, the comparative demand in next means from up to 2050 will be lesser, and if the irrigation demand or the irrigation supply will reduce, then probably it will pose different concerns. Like we will have to irrigate lesser area as compared to 2000. If we are irrigating lesser area, then probably within those areas we will have to increase the productivity. So so the rice productivity will have to be enhanced in that proportion, because the resource will be reduced, resource availability will reduce, or resource distribution will be reduced, but the requirement of the product through irrigation, like agriculture commodities, will have to increase. So that's a different concern, a different challenge, goes into a totally different domain of thought and action. So this is one more thing which, as that was a comparative figure, this is also some comparative figure which is freshwater stress. This it is a study, a combined study done by Great, Arendelle, at UNEP. They have used water withdrawal for different uses in different countries as the determinant to understand stress. So the reason behind it was, though UN, WHO, and all those have worked out a figure of 1700 cubic meter per person per day, we know that as per the distribution, it came up like, suppose in these areas have less than 500, but still people survive over there. It means it cannot be a simple absolute term saying 1700 cubic meter is the water sufficiency, and anything below 1700 is not sufficient, and there won't be life. So it's not so. That's why some other method to understand the stress was derived, developed, studied, kind of thing, and then uh, they put forth in in the terms of percent withdrawal of the available water. So maybe it be fresh water or groundwater. It's not necessary that it is, when we say withdrawal, it is only groundwater. It can be surface water as well as groundwater. So whatever available water resources are there in the country, uh, the usage pattern for that available water resource has been studied, and it is found that this dark tone has extended into the lighter tones, and some of the blue tones have also changed into yellow ones. So like USA in 1995 was withdrawing less than 20% of its resources, whereas by 2025 it is expected to withdraw more than 20% of the resource. That's why the usage pattern has changed over here. It may not have been much affecting on say Canada or Australia, but it has surely have some impact on USA. It has some impact on some European countries over here, as well as it has changed the color tone of India as well as China. So the usage pattern is changing or estimated to change, and change to a extent that the group category will change. Now that's taking into more details. This is a study, baseline study for water stress conducted by WRI in 2015. So this baseline water stress based on the withdrawals of the available supply shows that there are large stretches of areas or regions in India where the withdrawal is extremely high, more than 80% of the total available. And there and simultaneously there are areas like in Northeast where the withdrawal or the usage is less than 10%. So, so this red color or the dark tone shows a stress area within the country, and this is based on regional calculations. So this was a global scenario. This is a national scenario, and further to this, there have also been studies in different forms. Like they have defined the stress further to it. Like we know that, see, like in some areas, there's water available, but it is saline water, not potable water. It cannot be used for drinking purpose, or it cannot be used for some agricultural purposes, or there are some limitations in using it. In marshy areas also there are some problem. In coastal area there are some problems. So, considering this, it was further deliberated that it's just not quantity. Quality also has to be thought of, and then further studies were done related to quality also. So these studies, means quality and quantity studies coupled together, have put a different water stress index related to India. Okay. Now I would like to specify over here that this is comparative withdrawal, and this is an index worked out on the basis of quality and quality. The function over here for the determining the index quality as well as quantity as well as quality, and based on that the scenario seems to be still different when we have a better granularity of the data. So this picture, which looks very scary because of the red and dark tones and something coming up right from the screen onto the face. Now this is a little bit soothing. So there's a tone, green tone, fine, good, okay. So even means this is also one aspect probably when we look at some presentations or some data or some some representations, we also need to think a little bit instead of jumping down to the conclusion directly, because if at all suppose here they have used a say a greenish blue tone for areas where less than 10% of water is used or you withdrawal. Light blue for 10 to 20%, light yellow for 20 to 40%. Similarly, if in this picture, if they had used that color tone, probably this might have looked quite different, and would have been in conformity with the similar kind of color code used over here. And the northeast part would have been, we might have seen like blue or green kind of thing, and then this area also would have been in a different color. Now this granularity further shows that means now they, instead of using blue color, they have used green color. So even using these different color combinations or color patterns, it may give a different picture. So while understanding the scenario, probably we will have to always think on also on the flip side, or we try to understand between the lines. Then only we will be able to understand the real situation. So this study done by Environment Management Center has a higher granularity, and just I would like to put a reference of this study also, that they have studied some districts in Rajasthan where these look to be red, no? So they have spotted this, they conducted a study of some 20 tehsils in these areas like Ajmer, then I think Udaipur, some tehsils of Udaipur, some Ajmer, Sirohi, and one more district. And they have found that even within that cluster of tehsils, the three tehsils fall in green color. So with the granularity or having a deep dive, probably we can better understand the local situation and adapt to local practices in that suitable to that area. Now this is the EMC method. I have just used the same block as it is without going into much details. This is just for understanding that for calculating the water stress index, they have used water quantity subindex plus water quality subindex plus uncertainty subindex. So based on that, they have calculated it. And you will also always find all the details as I have mentioned over here in the source, understanding and addressing water source. Yeah, with most of the things I have tried to give you, so you can anytime go back and refer to the details of those studies or articles written by the authors. Now this is one more very peculiar thing which I would like to put forth. A small request to the organizers. It's something around 5:30. So
We can extend, Rajesh ji.
Yes, sir. We can have an extension of
Yeah.
10
Another
minutes.
10 minutes we can because we started late, so that 10 minutes.
Yeah. So I don't know how
Good.
that how it permits, Google Meet permits to what extent over that. Okay, fine.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So
So I'll try to run a little fast. So now the availability, as we know, is not uniform. It is not like the municipal tap water running 24/7. We receive rainfall, which is seasonal, periodic. In India, in case of India, it is very periodic, and that too, it is not uniform all through the year. So a longitudinal study indicates that there is large variation within the annual rainfall. Then there's even variation in the daily rainfall if we see from June to September. So that's again a change. And the third thing is the spatial rainfall, which is climatology related. And here we see that these areas receive lot of rain. Even this receives lot of rain. This receives very less rain. And probably this is very well depicted in the water stress index. So those areas having a better rainfall obviously have a lesser stress. And this is this mentions that the variations in rainfalls may be temporal as well as spatial, are a determinant to the availability as well as the usage pattern. Now, this is one more study done by IRI, where it shows the annual rainfall deviation in India and the correlation with El Nino and La Nina. So these are the ENSO effect somewhere in the Pacifics, and which plays an important role in the rainfall performance of Indian subcontinent. And all these dark lines, which are a negative deviation from the normal rainfall, and those linked to the El Nino effect, and then some dark blue lines uh, which are a positive deviation from the normal rainfall, which are because of La Nina effect. So this also plays, means there are things which are even beyond a long stretch of geographies, which also are determinant to the rainfall availability and the patterns. There's the per capita availability in India and the various demands. As we know that it is going on increasing. If we think about the stress line, which is 1700, and the scarcity line, which is of 1000 cubic meter per capita, we fear to be nearing that scarcity line by 2050, which is a concern for us. I'm not saying that this is only because of population and some such policies or something like that. But then that's a fact. This is happening, and we have to address it. So let's think about it. Be prepared. Let's take some measures to address the situation. Then only we'll be able to move along. So now I won't get into these details, but this is also available for you if the organizers share it. Then this is the same thing in a bit more absolute terms, where it says that the per capita water availability will reach to 1228 or 1230 cubic meter by 2050. And we all know this very specific statistics, that India has 4% of the water resources and 18% of global population. So obviously we'll be having some challenges, and we'll have to deal with those. I tried to put those as like the case of Maharashtra for the river basin distribution and availability. Same, I have tried to also put it over here, and it shows that Konkan has large. But then see over here, as I told you, that there are limitations in exchange. So Konkan has 3,497 cubic meter availability, and Godavari or Krishna has 1,827. So further to by 2050, if we can have some technology, some method to draw this water from Konkan area to Krishna Basin, probably Krishna Basin will be able to retain this availability and survive further in a better way. But that would require some very high level thought and very high level technologies to be dealt with. This is one more thing, like as I said about the quality and withdrawals and all those things. No? So this is also a very peculiar phenomena which we will have to think actually. The Central Groundwater Bureau has conducted, Central Groundwater Board has conducted a lot of quality studies also, and as well as the quantity studies. They have defined like that it is safe to withdraw less than 70% of the total annual recharge in an area, right? So if we are receiving say 1000 liters of water through natural recharge, it is safe if we use 700 liters and have a carryover concept of 300 liters for the forthcoming years. But there are areas where this is withdrawn more. There are even areas where it is withdrawn more than 100%. So if, we receive 1000 liters of recharge in a year, and we are using more than 1000 liters, which is leading to exploitation. And as we always read, know that we are using water which has been stored from thousands of years, and now we will be depleting from that precious resource and all those things. So we have to think about it. And friends see that this uh, withdrawal of the type of semi-critical, critical, or overexploited is in 36% units of the total units in the country, and of these 36%, nearly two-thirds fall in Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, UP, Tamil Nadu, and Telangana. So now the stress in terms of availability of groundwater, where the socio-economics is dependent on groundwater, also changes along with the usage pattern. So probably these areas will have to think in a different way so that they are able to overcome these issues and bounce back to normal situations. So this is something quality issues which. Then this is one more determinant: water pollution. We know all these causes: agriculture, industries, mining, and we are very close to it. We surely know it. But this is one determinant which reduces the utilizable potential of fresh water. Then climate change is one more determinant which surely affects precipitation and the temperature. We see the changing pattern means the anticipated change in precipitation, which shows that the precipitation will increase along the equator, will increase in the polar areas, but it will reduce in the inhabited areas of the world. So the major concerns are spatial and temporal variation of rainfall, reducing per capita availability, increasing the water stress, food requirements of the increasing population, 30% increase. Overexploitation of the groundwater, quality issues of surface as well as groundwater, narrow perspective of the conservation concept, and climate change implications. So these are the major concerns which we will have to deal. There are ways of dealing it. There are ways of dealing it, but what is important is we'll have to think beyond and act beyond. Just by putting up articles and putting views will surely not help. It will surely flag the issues, but then we will have to think beyond the scenario and also have to act beyond this scenario. Then only it will be possible for us. So there are a lot of options, and these are some calculations like I don't know means this is actually very simple, but maybe within a minute or so I'll try to explain it. Say at an average area of average village area in India is something 500 hectares. Say a less rainfall area, we are thinking it is 500 millimeters of rainfall. It will yield something 250 hectometers of water or 250 crore liters. Say the population of this village is 1,000 and it has a similar cattle population of 1,000 which requires nearly 5.5 crore liters of water, which is only 2% of the total rainwater. So if we calculate the total rainwater in this area, which is 250 crore liters, the total population requirement of that area along with the cattle is only 5.5 crore liters, which is 2%. And if we say that we are not able to manage even 1.5 or 2% of the demand, then probably it's only poor management, nothing beyond that. If we think about the Pune metropolitan area, which is 570 square kilometer, which receives 700 millimeter of rainfall, which has 40,000 crore liters of water, and for a population of 60 lakh, even with a supply of 135 liters per day, it would require only 30,000 cubic meters of water. So if we are able to conserve say 60%, 70% of the total rainfall we receive on the Pune metropolitan area, it will suffice the large need of this municipal area. And then water from Panche, Khadakwasla, Mira Bhatgar, all these can be used for productive purposes. So that's why we need to have a different perspective while dealing with this issue. This is for the hydrology for the rural areas where we have heard about watershed development. Many eminent workers have done a lot of work in watershed development, and it has proven It's a proven conservation practice. See, like simple, the CCT which we see on the hills and mountain slopes and all those things. So, a 15 to 20 hectares of CCT done in a village can fulfill the total drinking water requirement of 1,000 population. Only 50 to 20 hectares of area. 20 hectares is how much? 20, 20, 40, and 20, 28, 48, 48 acres of land. If 48 acres of land is done with this kind of conservation practice, it can fulfill, means equal to the drinking water requirement of that population. So that can be one good measure. There are many other benefits of having this kind of soil water conservation measures. Then the organization which I have worked with, that Bharatiya Jai Sangatana BJS, it has an approach of rejuvenation of water bodies, which is a decentralized mode and more like a people participation, more for conservation practice. Then, sorry. Then for the urban areas, there has to be some different approach. This is RRR approach, where we can have an integrated way of doing it. If we think about a small plot of with a small building of 50 square meter through 500 square feet kind of thing, and it has 10 rainfall for at least 20 times, that 200 millimeter rainfall, if we are able to harvest, then we are able to harvest nearly 10,000 liters of drinking water and storm water, sorry, roof water and storm water in the small plot of 1,000 square feet. Then there's also a very important thing which we need to consider about artificial recharge. Because as we discussed, it's a heterogeneous geology, and there are limitations of natural recharge. So we can think of having additional recharge, and if we are able to do it as a study estimated by Aquadam, that 140 million cubic meters can be recharged annually in Pune metropolitan area, which is something about 45% of the total supply or requirement of the Pune metropolitan region. So these are the some approaches which we can surely think of. The inclusive approach for water conservation is the first and foremost is it is not a task of one or not a task done once. It is part of the ecosystem, and so water has to serve the ecosystem. It cannot be like okay, this year there's very less rainfall, so we will not use water. We will try to have supply only for drinking purpose, only for say some very limited purposes, and we will not have cropping or crops, or we will not use it for some other ecosystem services. So it's not possible thinking in that way. Water is a resource; it's must for life. And water is a dynamic resource, so it is very dynamic. You cannot simply store water. Like if you store water into dams and lakes, and it evaporates. If you don't use it, it is not that it will remain for the next rainy season. It will evaporate to a lot. But the good opportunity is that India has a historical wisdom of water management, and the driver, water is the driver for the Indian economy. So we have to also think in that perspective. There are different approaches: harvesting, scaling, recycling, quality, quantity, productivity at the core. Then we have to think about water literacy, river basin, sub-basin planning. Because district cannot be, district as an administrative unit is not a natural unit. Like if we think about, say, like Pune, where Lonavala has lot of rains, and Daund Baramati has something only 400 millimeter of rainfall. Say the same cases in Satara. Mahabaleshwar has 4,000 millimeter of rainfall. 40 kilometers down the slope in Khatav and Man, it is 450 millimeter rainfall. So, and both these regions fall in one district, like Lonavala and Baramati Daund are in one district. Mahabaleshwar and Khatav Man are also in one district. So, district as a unit is difficult to actually think about it, but it is only an administrative unit for the implementation. But the planning should necessarily be a river or sub-basin kind of thing approach. And we also have to think, when it is a socio-economic determinant, we also have to think of demand management as well as virtual trade of water which which is bound to come through, because for areas which are water scarce, they still require an equal amount of food. It cannot be said that we receive only 400 millimeters rainfall, so we will be eating only millets. We will not go in for pulses or some other kind of food items. So it is the consumption requirement of a human body, and it has to go. So we'll have to think about virtual trade also. So the I would like to acknowledge all the references which I have done for this presentation. And I thank you for your patient hearing through this session. And very sorry for that technical hitchup, because of which I could not join in quite early. This is something which has been spoken about a long time earlier by Rahim. Rahiman pani rakhiye, pin pani sab sun. Pani gaye na ubre, moti manus cho. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jayant.
Thank you, Jayant. That's really an exhaustive collection of data. I have some questions here.
Sure.
I think I request Rajeshri to extend the session by 5-10 minutes so that
The forum is open for the question and answer, sir. Yeah.
So one is the recharging, sir. Is there any estimates for recharging, and what is the cost of recharging per 1000 km, something like that? And
yeah. So as I said, there are different conservation measures depending on the local situation. Like if we think of recharging, this is a very systematic way which has been designed by an institution named as Aquadam, which is also Pune based, and they have done a detailed study for the geohydrology of Pune. Okay, and see that it's very peculiar. If you can see through this slide, I'll try to put it into this. Okay, so this this is a filter. Okay, this is a shaft for a bore well, and this bore well should be extended to a depth where we have water table as well as some porous formation, so that the water fed through this recharge shaft can reach out and recharge the layers beneath it. Okay, so if this, and the second is depending on what type of inflow it is having, the filter system also has to be designed differently. So if we are able to keep our roof clean, just I'm putting an example, clean, we are trying to maintain it, flush off some of the dirt during the regular monsoon showers, and we have a simple filter system with maybe a bore well to a depth of say 100 feet, which yields good groundwater for that area. Then probably this would be a broad estimate of 5,000 to 7,000 rupees per unit.
Okay.
But if this also has say storm water, like the water flowing from the boundary areas of a society, maybe a multi-soil society, and vehicles moving in over there, probably then this filter system has to be different. It also has to take care of the oil spills and the dirt and all those things. And then this filter system would be costly. Maybe it would, and it also depends on how much inflow it is receiving. So if more the inflow, then the filter system size will be more. And if it's a small limited surface area, then what generally is observed or calculated is, for an area of say 500 square feet of rooftop, 5,000 to 7,000, 7,500 is the expenditure for this filter system. And bore is already existing, so we can have some fixtures for this bore so that it operates in a proper way.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you. See, another.
Carry on, Abhimanyu. I'll ask.
Okay. See, another thing is that I have attended some interactive sessions from the Institution of Engineers. Since I'm from the Andhra Pradesh side,
Okay.
we have a very long coastal line. So there was a paper or a scientific study from Institution of Engineers that we can use the entire industrial water consumption. We can feed through desalinated water, so that the extraction of water or utilization of groundwater will come down, and the treated effluent water after particular processing can be discharged into the bore wells. So this is the reverse type of thing. Instead of taking out water, we pump in water into the earth, but we take out water from the seawater desalination, and the per KL was costing around 70 rupees. That kind of calculation was done, and that same is applicable for Maharashtra also. Have you done any work on this side, sir?
Uh, uh, Regarding coastal area treatment or saline ingression or treating seawater um, uh, for municipal supplies, there's hardly any work done in Maharashtra.
Okay.
Yeah. Most of the work we see over is in only Middle East, where it is claimed that 70% of the municipal supplies are
Okay.
through desalination of seawater.
Yeah.
The second part, which you, the earlier part which you said, that using treated effluent to feed in the aquifers and raising the groundwater levels, yeah, that can be done.
Okay.
That can be done, but
See.
that would be a costlier affair. But anyways, if the effluent is treated properly to a level that it can be fed into groundwater, it
Yeah.
can surely also be fed into streams, and
That's,
that would
yeah, yes.
maintain the ecosystem in a better way instead of feeding in directly to the groundwater.
Yeah, you are right, sir. See, the scheme was like this, sir. Since you are working with many government organizations, I'm just sharing my experience.
Yeah.
They wanted to have a penstock from Nellore to up to Visakhapatnam.
Yeah.
The diameter was estimated to be 3 to 4 meter to 5 meter diameter pipelines,
Yeah.
where the entire water requirement of the industries in the coastal corridor, also the nearby villages, will be catered by the RO water.
Yeah.
Right. And the groundwater, because at the time the groundwater studies was has reached a level of alarming situation.
Yeah.
Even crossed the red zone.
Yeah.
So some schemes, of course, it is a major scheme, and we were a part of the Institution of Engineers, was a part of the consulting committee. So I just wanted to share that details. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. It was very, very informative, and your compilation from the globe to India to Maharashtra and then to the district level was really, a flow was so nicely maintained. Thanks, sir. Thanks for this.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel that I've been able to build a perspective to think a little beyond on what is generally said in as a what can be said, populistic statements. So I have tried to go a little bit beyond with some technical information. Thank you.
Jayant, I have a question before you go.
Please.
Can this be a business proposition also, that we give information? See, disaster management, people say, is a very big business. If you have sensors across for weather, for storm, for all kinds of things. Now that probably government can only do, nobody else. But if information is available on all kinds of water coming to the district and going out of the district or getting wasted.
Yes.
So if just that information is available, maybe dissemination, a very large dissemination of that information by the government probably will change the thinking of the people in that district or in that state. So can this information availability be a business proposition?
Yeah, it can be. Like suppose weather prediction or weather information in a proper, precise way, which is granulated up to, say, village scenario, can be helpful to save the crop produce, or also to have proper decisions. And when this kind of information means, it would be a costly affair, no doubt, But then if we are able to have a proper network of the users, and the users find a value in that information and ready to pay, then at the user part it will be a very small amount. I think even a contribution of 500 rupees per annum for a single farmer, or even lesser than that, for having this kind of information in a closed loop, will surely gain him a produce worth more than 500 rupees. So that would be surely a good return for him to ensure that he gets a proper crop, has a proper decision making, considering the weather predictions, as well as updates. It's not only prediction; it also important to have weather updates. So for a given season, this can be done. Similarly, it can be done for urban supplies also. When you know that you are going to have such kind of this kind of rain in this kind of area, and say, like, even if we think about a city like I stay in Pune, so I can tell you areas towards Sinhagad will have more rainfall. Areas towards the airport will have lesser rainfall. And when I say lesser and higher, the comparison is also quite large. It is something around 1500 mm towards Siaghad area, and only 700 mm towards the airport area. So within a stretch of this 20-25 kilometers, this would be a variation. So if having this information, this data, and coupled with the geohydrology of these different areas or wards of Pune city, government can take a decision of regulating the water supply during monsoon and post monsoon period, which can save a lot on the capital investments for water supply, as well as it can save a lot on the available resource, which can be diverted to more productive uses.
Good. Thank you. Thanks a lot taking this time out. Rajesh ji, if you can do the honors, please.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jayan sir. Though we started late, but you could cover up all the entire things, and it was very informative session for us. Looking at the graphs and charts, what you showed, we the pressure aa jata hai. What are the stress level we are living in as far as the water source availability or conservation we are into. Definitely, a lot of things are going on with the people like you working day in day out in this area. The process at the government level and the ground level also is changing. We hope to move to more water sustainable society. Thank you again once again on the behalf of the general team. I thank you for participating in today's session, sir. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. One small update that right now I am not working with government organization. As I said, I am working with this Bharti Jain Sangatna.
Achha.
And the second thing is the presentation. It's in PPT form. It's an open presentation.
Okay.
And you may please share to anybody who is interested to go through it in more details.
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
We can close the session now. Thank you very much.